missed enough. There we go.
I don't know the victim's name, family's name.
It's the victim's family present.
Yes, Your Honor, they should be on the Zoom.
I just wanted to make sure y'all were there. If you don't want to be on,
We are?
if you don't want to be on the camera, you don't
I see.
have to. But I just wanted to make sure you were there and you wouldn't miss anything.
And before we start, would you all mind stating and spelling your last name just so we have it correct for the record?
Mom, you could probably go first.
Okay. Last name is my first. Do you want my first and last name or just my last name?
First and last.
Okay. So it's first name is UCHE. And my last name is OHIMAI hyphen EHIMIAGHE. And
Sir, you want to spell your name?
do you want to spell yours or do you want me to? His name, first name is OHIMAI and last name is EHIMIAGHE.
Who's next? Ms. Williams. Anyone else? Mr. Cromwell, do you want to put your and your client's name?
Yeah. Do you want me to spell it or? My client should be on the Zoom.
Okay, well, this just for the court reporter. So please, Mr. Cromwell, so we'll let her your
Sure.
client, but if you put your name on the record, please.
I'll put my name in. Yeah, I'm attorney William Cromwell for defendant Helen Miskina. And I'll go ahead and spell that. It's HILENA. Miskina is MISGANAW.
All right, Mr. Hall.
Yes, Judge. Andrew Hall here with Muhammad Hassan. We do have one matter to address with the spelling of his name. So his name should be spelled MOHAMED, last name Hassan, HASSAN. He has been incorrectly identified, and this is not an alias, it's just a typo throughout this case as Muhammad, MUHAMED. We filed a plea of misnomer and motion to correct the spelling of his name back in October of 2023. It's something we were planning to correct, resolve. We didn't actually need a ruling on it because everyone agrees that that's the issue. But I want to make it clear on the record that this is not an alias situation. This is just somewhere when someone was entering his information. He's a U.S. citizen with a Georgia driver's license, and his name has always been spelled M-O-H, not M-U-H. And so we just like that reflected on the record, please.
All right.
And record, Mr. Hall, you and your client, do you waive that typo or error in the indictment in order to proceed today?
Oh, yeah. No, we're not raising
for the record
challenge to it, but what we don't want to have it is sometimes these GCICs start popping up as AKAs and aliases and something like that. And this is not one of those situations where just a data entry person mistyped the name at some point. It's kind of taken on a life of its own.
Understood. And ready when you are, Your Honor.
All right, if I can have both, I don't know if both defendants can raise their right hand for me. All right, do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? Ma'am, you first.
Yes, I do.
All right, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you both. Go ahead, Madam Prosecutor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Beginning with Mr. Hassan, would you please state your true, correct, and legal name for the record?
My name is Mohammed Tawfiq Hassan.
And are you the Mohammed Tawfiq Hassan identified in indictment number 2389127?
Yes.
Okay.
You-
Miss,
Ms. Jones, Connor, you broke up for just a moment. It may be at my end, but it's 23 SC 189127.
yes, 23 SC 189127. Are you also the Mohammed Hassan identified in that indictment, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Miss Miskanal, can you please state your true, correct, and legal name for the record?
Paulina Fente Misrano.
And are you the Miskanal identified in indictment number 23 SC 189127?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Hassan, are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
And is there a medication you normally take that you have not taken today?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Miskanal, are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
And is there a medication that you normally take that you have not taken today?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan, how old are you?
I'm 21 years old.
Ms. Miskanal, how old are you?
I'm 21.
And Mr. Hassan, what is the highest level of education that you have completed?
High school diploma, high school graduate.
Okay. Ms. Miskanal, what is the highest level of education that you have completed?
High school. I'm in college.
Mr. Hassan, are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskanal, are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. Hassan, do you understand that you are charged with the following offense, that being one count of felony tampering with evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Miskanal, do you understand that you have been charged in the indictment with 2 offenses of involuntary manslaughter? Count 2 would vacate by operation of law, and the plea today is to count 1, involuntary manslaughter, as caused by or predicated upon reckless conduct. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskanal?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you will receive a public jury trial? Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskanal?
Yes.
Mr. Hassan, have you discussed the fact that we are conducting today's proceedings virtually with your attorney?
Yes.
And has your attorney explained to you that you have the right to tender your plea physically present in the courtroom, or if you waive that, we can proceed today on the Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. And do you waive the right to be physically present in order to proceed today?
Yes.
Ms. Miskanal, same, did you discuss that we are proceeding today virtually with your attorney?
Yes.
And do you understand that you do have the right to tender your plea physically in the courtroom?
Yes.
And do you waive that right in order to proceed virtually today?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Hassan, have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer, Mr. Hall, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charge against you in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, I have.
Do you need more time to discuss the case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with his services?
Yes.
Ms. Miskanal, have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer, Mr. Cromwell, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss the case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with his services?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
We do.
Waive any and all possible defects in the indictment, including any with respect to your client's name?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cromwell, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Yes.
And do you waive any and all defects in the indictment, including any possible with respect to your client's name?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge you are pleading to? For Ms. Miskanal, each count of involuntary manslaughter carries a minimum of 3 years up to a maximum, it carries a minimum of 1 year up to a maximum of 10 years to serve. And for tampering with evidence felony charge for Mr. Hassan, that carries anywhere from 1 year up to 3 years to serve. Mr. Hassan, do you understand that as a minimum and maximum sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Ganal, do you understand that as the minimum and maximum sentence for the charge?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I need you to repeat that one time. It's a little muffled.
Yes.
Okay. Do you all understand that neither the court, your attorney, nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with the Department of Corrections or Board of Pardons and Paroles, and no one can guarantee parole no matter what anyone has told you? Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miscanow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you understand that having accepted the state's offer in this case, that today is what's constituted as a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that a joint recommendation will be provided to the court from the state and the defense. However, the court does not have to accept that recommendation. The court can sentence you on the maximum of each charge and can run those sentences consecutively or one after the other. Do you understand, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miscanow?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the record, Your Honor, one moment. For Ms. Miscanow, the recommendation, Your Honor, is to be served on probation, a behavioral incentive date of 3 years, so long as Ms. Miscanow adheres to special conditions of probation, which is that she remain in school or employed, that she complete a gun safety or anti-gun violence course, and that she have no further violations of the law. For Mr. Hassan, with one count of tampering with evidence, it would be 3 years to be served on probation. The special conditions of that probation are that he is to either remain in school or employed. Also that he have no further violations of the law. Part of the negotiations is that it was expressed that Mr. Hassan has been traveling to Kenya to visit with a sick grandmother. We understand that that must be approved by probation. The state will allow probation to make that final determination as to when such trips are allowed, as far as that goes for that. Mr. Hall, am I forgetting anything in regards to Mr. Hassan's?
Just as a first offender plea, and the way that you and I had discussed it to tender to the court, is that the sentence will reflect that he may travel to Kenya with prior notice to the probation office.
Understood. And we'll get to the first offender portion as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cromwell, anything for Ms. Miscanow that was misstated or omitted?
Nothing misstated, and other than obviously we're going to discuss first offender.
Okay. Now, do you all understand that this is a guilty plea, which if you do not successfully complete your first offender sentence would be permanently recorded on your criminal history? Do you understand that, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Do you understand that, Ms. Miscanow?
Yes.
For Ms. Miscanow, we need you to speak up just a little bit because the court reporter needs to hear you, okay?
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
And do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction, as well as in other jurisdictions, including in the federal courts? Mr. Hassan.
Yes.
Ms. Miscanow.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you are currently on probation or parole, the state's criminal history reflecting that neither of you are, but if you were, your probation or parole may be revoked based on your entering a guilty plea today? Do you understand that, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Do you understand that, Ms. Miscanow?
Yes.
And do you understand that being placed on probation, if you violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit, or you violate any special conditions of your probation, you may be subject to revocation for the full balance of your sentence? Do you understand that, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Do you understand that, Ms. Miskina?
Yes.
And do you understand that you are not allowed to possess nor use a firearm while on probation, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskina?
Yes.
For the record, are you a United States citizen, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskina?
Yes.
And do you all understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences because of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony charge, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of an additional felony offense, and you could be sentenced up to 15 additional years in prison? Do you understand that, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
Now, are you asking to be treated as a first offender under the provisions of the First Offender Act, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever pleaded guilty or nolo contendere to, or ever been convicted of a felony in the state of Georgia or any other jurisdiction, Mr. Hassan?
No.
Ms. Miskinow?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been sentenced for any crime, felony, or misdemeanor under the First Offender Act or conditional discharge statute, Mr. Hassan?
No.
Ms. Miskinow?
No, ma'am.
Has your lawyer explained the First Offender Act to you, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you violate the terms of your first offender sentence or commit a new offense while on probation, your first offender status could be revoked, you could be adjudicated guilty, and you could be resentenced up to the maximum sentence for each charge in this indictment? Do you understand that, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty today, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
Now, you are giving up a number of constitutional rights by pleading guilty today, and I want to make sure that you understand the rights that you are giving up. So do you understand that you are giving up these following rights? The right to a speedy and public trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses and cross-examine witnesses called to testify against you, the right to assistance of counsel either hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at a trial of your case, the right to the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence if you wish, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, and the right to have the charges against you proved by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, the right to appeal if you are convicted of these charges after a trial. Do you understand that you are giving up all of those rights by proceeding today with a guilty plea, Mr. Hassan?
Yes, I understand.
And do you have any questions about those rights that you are giving up?
No questions.
Ms. Miskinow, do you understand that you are giving up all of those rights previously listed in order to enter a guilty plea today?
Yes, I do.
And do you have a question about any of those rights?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea today, Mr. Hassan?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Miskinow?
No, ma'am.
And is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you are in fact guilty? Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan, how do you plead to the charge of 1 count of felony tampering with evidence?
Yes.
How do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Okay. And Ms. Miskinow, how do you plead to the charge of involuntary manslaughter?
Guilty.
And is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
And do you understand that you only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction, Mr. Hassan?
Yes.
Ms. Miskinow?
Yes.
And do you understand that you have only 4 years from today to file what is called a habeas corpus petition, which challenges the voluntariness of you entering this guilty plea? Mr. Hassan
Yes.
and Ms. Miskinow.
Yes.
And do you also understand that you only have 30 days from today to file what is called a notice of appeal in your case? Mr. Hassan
Yes.
and Ms. Miskinow.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, as far as a factual basis in speaking of this case stems from the August 10th fatal shooting in 2021 of the victim, Alohi. She was just 18 years old at the time, getting ready to begin her life, a scholar in every right, and a friend at the time of Miss Helena Miskinow. It was on that day that Miss Miskinow was playing with a handgun while being filmed by Miss Alohi with a cell phone. It was at that time that she was fatally struck in the face by a bullet, 1 shot, which took her life. She was transported to Grady from the incident location, which was at 530 East Paces Ferry Road, Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia, in Fulton County. She succumbed to her injuries finally when she reached Grady Hospital. Multiple individuals called 911 stating that they had heard a gunshot and immediately after women screaming. On the scene, they located Miss Miskinow's Toyota Corolla with a large blood stain on the ground next to the side of the vehicle, and marks corresponding with the movement of Alohi's body by the EMTs, as confirmed by a subsequent meeting with the EMTs and emergency medical services. A cell phone with a bullet hole in it, corresponding with the injury that Alohi suffered, was located on the ground next to that blood stain. It was on the scene that the police were able to interview both Miss Miskinow and another witness, Bethlehem, Bathleham, Mekonnen, Mekonnen, both who remained on scene and spoke to the police on multiple occasions. It was Miss Mekonnen who reported that she had been with her friend, Miss Miskinow, and the victim, Alohi, and it was at that location that they were there to meet with another group of boys, which included Mr. Hassan. It was in the parking lot that she proceeded to sit in the front passenger seat of Miss Miskinow's vehicle. She knew that Lohi and Helena were outside of the vehicle, but she was distracted as she was putting in her nose ring, which officers made note of as they were on scene. It was shortly after that she heard something about a gun, and then shortly after she heard a gunshot. It was then that she fled on foot, but returned to the scene, staying in that area as soon as she saw the police arrive. She did approach them, did recount that following story. She also called 911, which tracked with the phone records. It was on scene that they also spoke with Miss Miskinow. At that point, she reported that Lohi, her friend, was taking a video of her, And she mentioned that the gun that she was using in reference to create a video regarding a stolen wallet, that gun was provided by a man named Mo, that he was driving a sedan that included 2 other individuals. But she admittedly said that she shot her. Yeah, this is my fault. I shot her. I don't care for a lawyer. I'll just go to jail. I shot her. Which she repeated on the scene and in the patrol car, and then later when she went to the headquarters of APD as well. Surveillance in the parking deck was reviewed. It did not show the shooting itself. Unfortunately, it stopped short after seeing Miss Ganal kind of back up in between cars, and you see Loki holding a cell phone, and then they disappear out of the view until we see a vehicle speed off, that vehicle being tied to Mr. Hassan, and the different bystanders who called 911 and remained on scene. Your Honor, it was through Detective Hogan, the lead detective, that he was able to repeatedly contact Miss Ganal, as well as Bethlehem, Miss McConan, and in speaking to them and obtaining their phone records, obtain information for a Muhammad. That Muhammad was then connected to Muhammad Hassan. He pulled a photograph of Muhammad Hassan that was connected to a phone number. Both Miss Ganal and Miss McConan, once receiving a photograph of that individual, confirmed that that was the individual they knew as Mo. It was later that Detective Hogan attempted to talk to Mr. Hassan and did so unsuccessfully. However, Mr. Hassan was arrested for the charges. He turned himself in once his attorney was contacted, and the case proceeded from there. Your Honor, this is nothing short than an absolute tragedy that was created by nothing less than stupidity on the parts of 2 different individuals. I have the parents of Lohi here on the Zoom, and I know that they would like to address you, Your Honor, and I suspect that they will express that this is not what they see as justice, that they do not agree with this sentence, and I want them to be able to do so, and I'm asking as the state for them to be able to do so. I cannot, as the state, give them an explanation as to why something of this magnitude occurred. I don't think an explanation that would ever suffice on why they lost their child that day could exist. And unfortunately, with the evidence that we have, it is consistent with this being a reckless act, but an unintentional killing. However, Your Honor, they are still sitting here without their child, and there are 2 families that, regardless of the sentence today, get to see theirs. Regardless, at the end of 3 years or 8 years, get to see their child every day, get to speak with their child, get to learn about the experience they go through in college and working and jobs, and maybe getting married one day, maybe having their own children, and having to have a worry every day that their child may end up in this same position off of somebody making a video about a wallet, off of somebody having a loaded firearm and using it like a toy. So I hope that sits with both of the defendants in this case, but I want to turn it over to the family and allow them to speak to you, Your Honor, because I think that's the least I can do in my position with the state.
Yes, ma'am. Mom and Dad, I would try to, how do you pronounce your last name?
Ohimaya Himiage.
Okay, do you mind if I just stick with Mom and Dad?
That's
My,
fine.
my accent may really mess that up.
No, that's all right. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mom. I'll hear from you.
We would have loved to be there, but we weren't able to because, again, everything's very fast in Georgia. So we weren't able to come into court this morning, but we thank you for the opportunity to speak. I kind of wrote down my thoughts last night so that I don't go off, because there's a tendency to get very emotional when you talk about something like this. We have the opportunity to speak for our daughter Lohi, who is in here, to speak for herself. We first want to share a little about who Lohi was. She was our youngest daughter, and she was sister to our two older children. Lohi was sweet. She was kind. She was loving. She was generous. She was beautiful. She was intelligent and full of life. She was a friend, a confidant, a leader, an exemplary role model in school and in her community. She was a bridge builder and an avid advocate for fairness and equity, always willing to help and stand up for the struggling and the voiceless. Lohi was a proud alum of Phillips Andover Academy in Massachusetts, where she was co-president of her quad, among many of the leadership positions she held over the years. Her funeral, which was over summer break, because she was killed on August 10, was on the 15th of August. It was held in Georgia because we didn't want to have to move the body all the way back home. That funeral was attended by scores of her schoolmates from across the country who heard about what had happened. Her head of school and several members of faculty. The school subsequently, at their own instance, conducted another funeral on campus to give students an opportunity to mourn and pay their respect. As we speak, Phillips Academy Andover has installed memorial items on campus in honor of her passing. This just speaks to the kind of person she was and the kind of impact she had everywhere she went. She was going to matriculate at Yale University 2 weeks before she was tragically killed while visiting one of the accused. She would have been entering her senior year of college in September 2024. Words cannot sufficiently articulate what her absence means to us as a family, and no second passes without us feeling the weight of her loss. Your Honor, it might interest you to know that when we first heard of the incident, we had absolutely no intention of pursuing legal action, because as unbelievable as it was, we were told that this was a horrible accident that happened between two friends. However, once we realized that the defendants were definitely concealing things and they were being uncooperative and the things were missing from the scene and the identities of the people on the scene was and is still being withheld, that ruled out the possibility that this was an accident. The defendants have, without a doubt, not acted in good faith. Why do I say this? Because for people who claim this was an accident, this incident was an accident, the immediate reactions to her shooting was suspicious and appeared pre-planned. We had simple questions that remain unanswered till this day, or conflicting testimonies where answers were provided. We had simple questions like, who was Mo? What was his relationship with Helena and with Bethlehem? Who invited him over? Why were they there at that parking garage? The fleeing of the scene of the crime, the refusal to identify other participants, and the missing weapon have given us cause to suspect foul play. Now, I'm happy to shed more light if you want me to do that. Everything happened within 2 minutes of arriving at the arrival of the boys at the parking garage. None of the witnesses called 911 until later. The fact that our daughter had made what we now see as a distress call just before this incident also suggests that there was foul play. We believe that reasonable conclusions can be drawn from behavioral patterns and circumstantial evidence. The actions of the defendants in this case do not align with those of innocent parties. We believe that since it is not in question that the defendants killed our daughter, The court should speak for those who have no voice. While a jail term will not bring back our daughter, it will send a message to the defendants about the severity of the action, the loss, the harm their reckless acts have caused, and hopefully deter them from similar actions in future. Something probation can never do. Never. The records should also stand as they would serve as a warning for people to deal cautiously with the defendants in future. If we had known the reckless nature of Mo, for instance, as well as his association with Helena, we would have kept our daughter away from them and she could have been here with us today. It's only fair that the accused serve a minimum jail sentence of 2 years in addition to the years of probation being proposed by the prosecutor. It is our honest opinion and belief that a probation-only sentence is a slap on the wrist and is tantamount to inflicting the wound again and stabbing it repeatedly. That's exactly how we feel, because their lives are laid out in front of them, going on. We don't have the chance to do anything with our Lohi. We earnestly seek to have some real justice to lighten the burden of this irreparable loss. Like I said earlier, a jail term will not bring back our Lohi, which is what we would 100% want. If we had a chance, we want her back. We would want her back. We cannot have that. But there has to be consequence for the loss of a brilliant light that was quenched needlessly. The only account we have is the account of the accused. And all the questions to dig further to get the truth have been stalled and we've been stonewalled. We ask for justice. That's all.
Dad, thank you. Dad, would you like to say anything?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay.
An arrest warrant was issued for Mo, who provided a gun and ran away from the murder scene with the gun. He was arrested, and the judge dismissed the arrest warrant, stating that running away from a crime scene was not a basis for arrest. And the ADA was there representing the state. The ADA and the judge kind of lost focus of the fact that he ran away with the murder weapon. With no reference to the murder weapon, the arrest warrant was dismissed. That one who ran away from a murder scene with the murder weapon was, I would like to be called before agreeing to this plea to look at that dismissal of the arrest warrant. A society, a progressive and stable society is built on a justice system that is fair and equitable to all. Once a justice system begins to be funny or gives judgment that are suspicious or unreasonable, that reasonable people cannot in reasonable circumstances understand, the society begins to go down the hill. A former president referred to some countries as S-hole countries, and all of these countries have one thing in common: a bad judicial system or justice system. This plea deal essentially says, kill anyone in Fulton County, kill anyone, please pretend, do whatever you can, and all you get is a probation, even when you run away with this from the scene. There were two other guys that were at the scene. The killer and he who ran away with the murder weapon have refused to date to provide the details of the other witnesses so that police can get witness report from them. Who were the other two men that were there with them? Why are we giving a plea deed to he who ran away with the gun, who has not returned the gun to the state today? The gun is not in position. We are not aware that the gun is with the police or with the state. The other witnesses are there. They have refused to cooperate to give you the details to hear from the other witnesses, and all we are giving is a probation. I think this will go down as a misjustice. This plea deal will go down as. Thank you.
So, Mom or Dad, tell me one thing. What did your daughter want to be when she graduated?
Our daughter was going to be a physician. We have two children. Every one of them, our first child is a physician, our second one is a dentist, and she was going to be a physician. She wanted to be a dermatologist.
And this is her picture as your background?
Yes.
Well, she was a absolutely beautiful girl, and I'm sure she made an impact. Her short life made an impact on everyone that she touched, and it sounds that way with her, the funeral or celebration of life that you had. So you should always be proud of and keep her close. Is there anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else? Anything from the defense, Mr. Hall?
Yes, I would like, Your Honor, to hear a couple of different things. I'll speak briefly myself, and then Ms. Ephraim Muhammad, which is Mr. Hassan's sister, would like to address the court on his behalf. And then Mr. Hassan also would like to address the court.
Okay.
So just by way of background, I will tell you, he is now 21 years old. At the time of the incident, he was 18 years old. Everyone agrees this is a terrible tragedy. No one thinks anything other than that. After he was contacted by the police about being involved in this case, he turned himself in. I personally spoke to Detective Hogan, and he told him have him turned in by the next day, and we turned him in ASAP right away. Mr. Hassan is, this has had a huge impact upon him, and something that he'll stay with him for the rest of his life. And I think you'll find those reflected in his words when he speaks to the court briefly. It is a negotiated plea. This is a matter that me and the state and Mr. Cromwell spent a lot of time working through a lot of the different allegations and facts and evidence and different positions to arrive at this point. And so ultimately, I'm going to ask Your Honor to accept the negotiated plea tendered. I would like you to hear from Ms. Ephraim Muhammad, if Your Honor would.
Is she on the Zoom?
Yeah, I have her right here in my conference room. I didn't want to bring her on screen without asking the court's permission, but she's right here.
Okay, that's fine. If she could,
Yeah, I'm gonna have her step over here. Just stand up for a minute and she can sit. Ms. Muhammad, if you could just speak right into the.
Good morning.
good morning. If you'd raise your right hand, ma'am. All right, you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, if you can put your hand down, if you would state and spell your name for the court reporter, please.
My name is Ifrah Muhammad. My first name is spelled I-F-R-A-H. Last name is M-O-H-A-M-E-D.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Ifrah Muhammad. I am the older sister of Muhammad Hassan. Having known him his entire life, I can affirm that Muhammad is a kind and non-violent person. Muhammad has always been a person of kindness and compassion. From his early years, he has shown genuine empathy towards others. His nature is one of caring and understanding, which makes this situation all the more heartbreaking. The recent incident, which resulted in the tragic loss of Olehi, has profoundly affected Muhammad. He is deeply remorseful and devastated by what has happened. In our numerous conversations, Muhammad has openly shared his overwhelming sadness and regret for the part he played in this tragedy. This tragedy has had a profound impact on him and will forever change him, driving him to reflect deeply and strive to be the best person he can be. On behalf of my family, I would like to extend our deepest apologies to Olehi's family. We are truly sorry for the immense pain and suffering you are enduring.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And if Your Honor would hear briefly from Mr. Hassan, please.
Sure. Go ahead, sir.
So I would like to just say that I apologize to the family of the victim. That day, I truly panicked because of the devastating moment that happened. It's been traumatizing me for the last 3 years. If I could only go back in time, I would do that day completely differently. Olohi's death will be with me forever since that day. And it is truly devastating to the family and also to me. And it's just something that can never leave my mind. And I just want to sincerely apologize to the family of Olahia and for your loss.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hall?
No, Judge.
All right, Mr. Cromwell?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Basically, we've all said that this is one of these tragedies. You just go, you know, what has gone on? My client, Helena, was a very good friend of the deceased. They were in school together up there. They were visiting, and this was it was a horrible accident. I'm going to have her actually give a talk to the parents to address them. And I want to say something to the parents. I had instructed my client not to call. And so and we apologize if that seems sort of cold and callous, but it was something because of what's going on. I had instructed her not to reach out. Despite that, there was some attempts to contact, because as you can tell from what Kelsey O'Connor said, my client was she was ready just to end. I mean, she lost a sister. She feels horribly upset about it. And to address another point out and by the parents, my client worked very diligently with me and Detective Hogan to find Mo. She didn't leave the scene. She was devastated. We can't bring back the daughter of this beautiful, beautiful daughter. I'm trying to have my client have something in her life. She's right now attempting to get into the medical field herself. And so, and based on what has happened, again, as Mr. Hall said, we worked very hard, had meetings with the prosecutor, had gone through every bit of evidence, and we would ask the court to consider this plea agreement so my client can honor her friend and get into the medical field. I'm going to have Helena now give a statement to the court and the parents. Helena, go ahead.
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. There is nothing I can say to comfort her family or to make up for what I did that day. Chloe was my best friend. I will never have a friend like her to this day. There will never be someone like her. Everything her mother said about her is true. We were roommates at Andover, and we served on councils together. We played sports together. We did everything together. Everyone knew us as being like two peas in a pod. And it was the worst thing I've ever done. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could trade places with her. I felt this way since the day it happened. I still feel that way today. And I only ask for leniency from the court so I can make my life worth something. I want to do something purposeful. I want to help people because I've hurt people. And I have to carry that every day. But that burden is nothing compared to what her parents deal with every day. And I'm so sorry. Mr. and Mrs. Banyage, I'm so sorry. And I apologize, Your Honor. Yeah, so I want to pursue being a physician assistant. Like I said, I want to help people and make my life worth more than my mistake. And I want to do something that honors Lohi one day. Whether that's charity. She was a charitable person. She was a kind person. And I want them to know it was an accident. And I wish I had known that this is how you all felt. I would have reached out or just done anything to show my cooperation and my willingness to get to the bottom of this. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Mom and Dad, go ahead. You've got the last word.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
As much as we would like to, I mean, we've heard all that everyone has said, but the facts still remain the fact. when this all happened, we reached out to Helena's parents and asked to have a meeting because we just wanted some type of closure. We wanted to just hear what happened. And that's probably one of the worst days of my life beyond the day when Lohi was killed. Because here's Helena, who had welcomed into my home times unnumbered, who had reached out to her mom before I let Lohi come over to see her, to say, make sure everything's fine. We had a meeting with Helena's parents, and we were being stonewalled. We were being stonewalled when we asked simple questions. We asked questions about Mo. Can we get his number? Just his number. But Helena's attorney says she cooperated with Detective Hogan. They had to be subpoenaed to get his number. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? We didn't see any cooperation at all. All we needed was the truth. All I needed was the truth. That's all we asked for. Just tell us what happened. So it's been 3 years, and I hear what they say, what they've said. But do I believe? Not after all the things that we've gone through, not after the stonewalling, not after when Lohi was lying cold on the blood, on the ground. Her mom was texting me and asking if I'd heard about the girls, where they were, when she knew that Lohi was dead. How can I take all these things in good faith? How? When someone's trying to take advantage of me, it's hard. It's really hard to take all this. Thank you.
All right. Madam Prosecutor.
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
All right, anything else from Mr. Harris, Mr. Cromwell?
Nothing on behalf of Mr. Hassan.
Mr. Cromwell?
Nothing on behalf of Ms. Miskino.
So, Madam Prosecutor, the other two people, have they been identified, or is that something that's still under investigation?
Your Honor, they have not been identified. We have gone through phone records as we have it from Mr. Hassan. We have attempted any facial recognition software, which is not doable in checking with the Secret Service because of the angle that we have in the parking garage. So unless Mr. Hassan decides to share that information today, we do not have that information or any leads there.
Mr. Hassan, Mr. Hall?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sure.
Mr. Hassan hasn't been willing to share the information?
I actually have no problem with sharing the information from exactly what happened that day. To the family of Olohie.
Tell them the names of the two people. That's what they're asking for.
The names of those two people, they were in the vehicle. In the camera, you could see that their names were Hamza Bashir and Yasir. I'm not sure his last name, but that day, as you could see on the camera, they never stepped out of the vehicle. I was the only person in the vehicle when I looked out the window and I seen Helena rack the gun and shoot it. So that's actually the moment, that's the mistake that I made, that I'm also in front of the court pleading guilty, was me panicking at that moment, picking up the gun and running. But the two people that were in the vehicle, they never came out of the car. So I could even say to you, they never seen it. They were actually shocked when I came in the vehicle and said what I seen. But I was so in fear that I still ran. I should have stayed. That's something I still regret to this day. But I didn't stay because I was in fear, and I threw that gun away. That's like maybe even 1 hour after that situation happened. I didn't even know until that night, because of the news, I found out that she passed away. So like that's the night everything scarred me from that moment.
Mr. Hassan, you threw a gun away where?
I just threw it over in the water, just somewhere nearby. I don't even remember exactly where. It was 3 years ago, but I just remember holding that gun in my hand. I threw it immediately. And the two people in the car, they were my friends at the time. I just told him to drive away because of the fear that basically was rushing through my mind. My heart was racing. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't stay to find out, and that's what I'm taking responsibility for because she didn't deserve that. And I truly, truly feel like very sorry for the family that day because she didn't deserve to die that way, and it was wrong.
Your Honor, Mohammed drove into the garage.
I wasn't driving, I swear, Your Mother.
Okay,
I
okay.
wasn't driving.
So, I mean, the prosecutor's writing down the information of the other people, and they have investigators that can look into it, okay?
And Mr. Hall, if you could, I don't know, well, Mr. Hall or Mr. Hassan, can you give me the spelling of the names?
Yeah.
I have Yasir as one.
Tell you what I'll do is I will, after this
Email them over to me.
meeting, I will email them over to you so you have them in writing from me with any contact information that we have. We don't have much, but the information we have, I'll send to you as an officer of the court.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, Madam Court Reporter, I will send it to you as well.
Okay. So anything else, Mr. Hall?
I apologize. I didn't realize it's for the court reporter. Yeah, I will. Sorry. I'll do two things. I will get the correct spellings for purposes of the transcript. Additionally, I'll get information to Ms. Jones-Connor for her to do whatever she wants to do with it. So nothing further, Judge.
Okay. Okay, is that it from the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mom and Dad, it's my understanding, and I spoke with some, I'm filling in for Judge Schwall today. The state and both parties have worked hard at negotiating this plea. It's my understanding at first this was charged as a misdemeanor.
That's correct.
And then it was elevated up to the felonies. Am I right, Madam Prosecutor?
Yes, Your Honor, and I will point that that is partly due to Lohi's family. Her parents have been adamantly involved in trying to get to the bottom of what happened since it went to the state prosecutor's office and then came over to us.
And Mom and Dad, there's absolutely no words that I could say, the state could say, other than I can ask the state that if you have any questions and if she's able to answer them now that she answered them. I don't know if there had been video of exactly what happened, if even that would have answered all of your questions. I don't think there's ever an answer for this other than complete stupidity. Because now this gun, if we take Mr. Hassan for what he says, is in a creek or a river. Maybe it hit this bank. So now it could be in the hands of someone else that could go and do something else with it. So, you know, there could be more that stems from this. I cannot bring your daughter back. And there are so many things that I would like to change. I'm not even sure what people were thinking. I know that when you rack a gun, you can tell there's a bullet that goes in the chamber, and a loaded gun is heavier than an unloaded gun. What you were doing with guns anyway is beyond me. And now someone's life has been taken. And that is something that both of you as defendants have to live with for the rest of your lives. Which is not anything close to Mom and Dad losing this beautiful daughter that we see behind them. And I don't know what fixes things like this, prison, probation, I just don't know. But the thing is, Mr. Hall, too, when your client travels, notify probation, he has to get permission from probation.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, because you don't just tell them and whatever, and, you know, I hope that your grandmother is better, sir, but yeah, you have to get permission from probation because I'm hoping that you're going to do what you're supposed to do, but in the event that you don't, they can tell you, no, you cannot travel. How many days did they spend in jail? Do you know, Madam Prosecutor?
I can get the exact number, Your Honor.
2 days for
Two.
Ms. Canal, 3 days for Mr. Hassan.
2
That's
days and 3 days. Mr. Hassan, you were at Rice Street,
Yes, ma'am.
and Ms. Miskina, I guess you were at ACDC?
I'm not sure. I was in, I
Oh,
started
okay.
county headquarters and they moved me.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna accept this negotiated plea and, Mom and Dad, do you want Ms. Miskina to not have any contact? And I am not, I've been a criminal defense attorney, so I understand Mr. Cromwell's position, Mr. Hall's position, them saying, don't reach out to the two of you. I understand that you think that maybe they didn't want to, possibly they did, but they were trying their client's interest, obviously not knowing where this would go. Do you want them to not have contact with you? Sometimes healing is when you're able to sit down face to face with the offender and say things that you need to say and maybe ask questions to get the answers? Or would you like me to put as part of their probation that neither of them can reach out to you?
Can you give me a minute to talk to my husband about it?
Sure. Or if you have their information, we can also allow you that if you want to talk out to them, that contact be initiated by you. How about that?
Okay.
So, Mr. Hall, Mr. Cromwell, if y'all both, if their contact information can be provided to the mom and dad here that way, and Ms. Miskinal and Mr. Hassan, what I would expect in the event that they do call is that you just answer their questions. I mean, they're not, maybe give them everything, which will never be enough that that happened that day. Okay, and that way we don't have to worry about you. So when they feel like it, they can reach out to you if they both decide to. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, Miss Miskina would, I mean, I was the one again keeping her from doing it, but she would love to be able to speak and talk to the parents.
Right. So we'll let mom and dad decide when they want to reach out to her. Okay. I'll accept this plea as freely and voluntarily. And so what we'll do on there is any contact with the victim's family will be initiated by the victim's family. Does that make sense, Madam Probation Officer? So no contact unless initiated by the victim's family.
Yes, Your Honor.
I guess that's a more clear. Yes, ma'am, Mom.
I wanna, did you just say you're accepting the plea?
Yes, ma'am. I spoke with Judge Walden in his office, and
what exactly for my better understanding, because I know after Ms. Corner read her offer, she said something about first offender. What does that mean? Is this going to be sealed?
Madam Prosecutor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And number two, I thought you said something about did you say 3 years for both of them? That's what I heard.
So there is a behavioral incentive date that comes with probation. And so if at 3 years for Ms. Miskinow, she has adhered to all of the factors of probation, she would then go to a different part of her sentence. It would not be reporting to probation, all of that.
What is the sentence? Can you please tell me what the sentence is for both of them?
So for Ms. Miskinow, it's 8 years to be served on probation. That 8 years does have a 3-year behavioral incentive date, which is what I was just explaining.
Okay.
The special conditions are, as added by the judge, that there is no contact with you all unless initiated by you all to Ms. Miskinow, that she has to complete either a gun safety or an anti-gun violence course as well, that she remain employed or in school, enrolled in school, and that she have no further violations of the law. For Mr. Hassan, it is 3 years to be served on probation. It will terminate if he has done it successfully at the end of those 3 years, because that is the maximum allowed on a tampering with evidence felony charge. Has the same special conditions: no contact unless initiated by your family. He must have no further violations of the law. He must complete a gun safety or an anti-gun violence course as well. He must remain employed or enrolled in school as well. First offender means that if they complete the total of their sentence without any revocations or further violations of the law, at the end of their sentence, they are designated a first offender, which means that it will not be listed as a permanent felony on their criminal history. That is if you complete the total of your sentence with no infractions.
Madam Probation Officer, can you also include my regular, no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no replicas of weapons?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, I don't know that there's anything that the two of you could do to honor this victim, but I suggest both of you think of something.
Yes, Judge.
Your Honor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do we get the contact information from my client? How do I get that to the parents?
You email me. So if you all have my contact information, so you can email it over to me and I will be the go-between.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Probation, they filled out their forms when they were here last
Yes,
week, correct?
information, just to shine some light on traveling. If you're going to travel abroad, it will have to be signed off by the Superior Court judge.
Well, that was specifically why we had asked to include that as part of the negotiated plea, and the state agreed to have that as a provision in the sentence. We're not claiming, Judge, that we can just tell.
Notified.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
The court still has to be notified.
So, Madam Probation Officer, just so I'm understanding it correctly, what would happen is they would notify you. At that point, the request would be sent to Judge Schwall and it would be signed off on, and once approved, then the travel is okay. But it has to be approved by not just probation, but also signed by Judge Schwall. Am I correct with that?
Yes, but if you're
Okay.
going to travel within the states, then it's local. And then your probation officer can sign off within states. But if it's abroad, it has to be signed off by the Superior Court judge. And travel arrangements should be provided at the time of the request.
Okay, that's fine. It's all doable.
So we would just need as much notice as possible, so that if Judge Wall's not here, I could sign it or another judge could sign it.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else from the state?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you all. Anything else, Ms. Woods? All right. Thank you all. Mom and Dad, I will keep you in my thoughts and prayers. And like I said, I personally will remember that beautiful face that's behind you.
Your Honor, may I add one last final thing?
Okay.
Yeah. Because Miss Canal is honoring or attempting to honor she talked about having some fulfilling life. She's applying to physician's assistant school. They need 2,500 to 4,000 hours of patient care in clinics, hospitals, medical settings. It's difficult. It's very difficult for her to get that because of the plea. I talked with Ms. O'Connor about sealing the plea. She talked about sealing it afterwards. Is there any way the court would consider sealing it now so she could apply for these clinic hours so she can hopefully get into this physician's assistant school?
To be clear, Your Honor, the state is opposed.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Ms. Canal, I'd love you to be able to start your life and do that, but I just don't think I can do that right now.
I understand. Yeah.
And maybe part of that is when you do that you have to explain what happened. That may be part of what you just have to do for the next few years. And I apologize, it's going to be hard on you, but it's not any harder than jail would be.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Will you want me to keep this link? No,
Yes.
I'm going to sign off, but I'm going to make Ms. Woods back the host. And thank you all. Y'all can be excused. And then I guess Judge Wall will be here in a few
Judge
minutes.
Wall will be coming in just.
All right,
just
thank
a
you,
minute.
Judge. We're going
All right,
to.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.